Hello everybody and welcome back to Elderberry Sprout. So first of all, pardon my nasaliness, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. But I have something really exciting to share with you guys. If you remember and you've been on the channel for a while, last fall, I think it was last fall, I shared a video about witchy works in progress. It might have even been the fall before that. Oh my gosh, that's kind of scary to think about. But anyway, I had this giant map bag that I had thrifted for a couple of dollars. I'll insert some footage of it here. It was really big, and the moment I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like the traveler's notebook of my dreams. I'm going to be able to cut it apart and make so many cool things out of it. And after brainstorming with you guys, I've finally developed a plan on how to do that, and we're here. So I didn't film the process of making this because it's such a niche thing. I feel like not a lot of us are going to come across weird map satchels. So I'm just going to explain a little bit about what I did with this personal piece and what my reasoning behind that was. And also I'm going to share with you how I'm planning on using this book, because I do already have like quite a few other traveler's notebooks, so I do have plans for this one in particular. So as you can see, this was originally quite a bit taller, so I had it chopped off a good chunk of the bottom. So I chopped it to my normal traveler's notebook size, which I like to make my traveler's notebooks so that they can accommodate a whole bunch of 8.5 by 11 folded sheets, just because I like to make all my own stuff, and that's, you know, printer paper size. I don't want to have to trim everything. So I have quite a few of those signatures in there right now. But with this guy, so I ended up making it, I also really like tight clearances to make it like really cozy and just like, ooh, so squished in without a whole bunch of like, I guess, empty space at the top and bottom. So I trimmed this to be 8 and 3/4 inches tall, and then I used the full width of it. So that means that when I chopped off my section at the bottom, I was left with a beautiful chunk of leather like this. And you can see that this is a laminated leather. There's 2 different layers glued together, and I ended up peeling the inner layer off, so you can see a little bit there, but we'll look at that later. Anyway, this offcut I think I'm going to turn into some type of pen case. I don't know which way I like it better, but that's going to be a project for later on. But there's still some beautiful tooling on it. So I'm really happy that I could salvage that chunk of leather. Let's see, start a new leather scrap pile over there. Okay, so I chopped it. That's the first step. I also, it originally had this toggle on the front where it would clasp closed. So right here you can see, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see there's this residue from where this old clamp toggle used to be. So there you go. So I did keep this as well because it's beautiful. I just thought it took up too much space. It was like really tall, and I knew it wouldn't slide into my shelves well, or onto my like bookcases and stuff, because I do like to store my traveler's notebooks vertically next to each other. So I knew that wouldn't slide in well, so I'm like, I'll just use it for something else. But I did keep the nice leather stitch work around the outside of it there. And it also, so the way that it worked is it had this little pin, can't really see right now, but there's this pin, and then it would sit right here, you'd flop this over, the little eyelet would go on the pin, and then you'd clamp it in and it would stay like that. So I did take this part off, and I kept all the parts so that I can use it later on. And I just taped them together with some washi tape. So then I was left with just this empty circle, which clearly is perfect for a traveler's notebook bungee. So it's not going to be in the center of the spine like usual. It's just going to be in the center front. Or the center-ish front, really. It is a little bit low, but you know when you're working with cool things, sometimes character presents itself and you work with what you got. And it's just too perfect of a little hole to not have this be the way that you lace it. Oh, also, speaking of the lace, this was a piece of elastic that used to be a part of the back of one of my jackets, actually, because the elastic had come out of the back of my jacket, and I kept it because it was really nice elastic. So just looped that through there. This was a button from Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just gonna go on forever because each one of these things has meaning to me. But this was a button that my mom and I had bought because I was going to a Panic at the Disco concert, and I made this whole like little steampunk style vest when I was 15. And this was one of the leftover buttons, so every time I think about that, I'm like, ooh, yay! Little Marina going to her, one of her first concerts anyway. So, then this one is a little heart because, oh, the intention for this is because it says map, I did salvage the part that said map. I want this to be like a planning planner, so planning the map of where my life is going. And I know that love is going to be leading the direction of my life. So I want to give love, I want to receive love, I want everything to just be in an energy of love. So that's a little reminder there of the direction of how I want to be in the world. Okay, is that everything? Let's look at the back a little bit here. I did put this clamp on the back, but that can be removed. Got some beautiful tooling. Put a little leaf charm and a couple little dangles there. Okay, let's open her up. I also have a giant paper clip here because I love me my giant paper clips. And here we go. Let me scooch my coffee over a little bit. So, I figured because it says map right here, I should have some type of mapping. So I haven't come up with a quote yet that I want to put on this page, but I do want to put a quote there. And this is kind of like a little folio, so I can tuck some stuff in there if I want to as well. So, if you have a good quote about a life direction and maybe making it an adventure or having to do with love somehow, shoot the comments to me, or shoot those quotes to me, because I really could use a good, just like loving, adventurous life quote. Anyway, and these are all just signatures that I made. I have not decided what each of them will be yet, but I will tell you how I ended up decorating them and like what you know, they're all designed with. So this is a whole bunch of printer paper. I've had it for a long time, hence why it's a little smaller than the rest of them. This was before I decided that I wanted everything to be 8.5 by 11 sheets folded in half. So this one I had trimmed. And I had some stickers that I put on the front of a... Let's stick those little stickers down there. This Hello Rain thing was from a Daphne's Diary. So I can't like sell anything of this, but I can use it personally. And then there's some rain boots and an umbrella. It would make sense if this was like, if I was sad or something, maybe I could journal in that. So this was some tea-stained paper. It's actually construction paper that I then glued onto the front page of this signature here. Also 8.5 by 11 sheets. I used a lace placemat that was like plastic, or I guess it was kind of silicone-y almost, or latexy. It was really like bungee. So it was great as a resist. And I did it on a blue, I think this was a blue construction paper. And some of the blue colors even shifted. Like, I honestly really love this one. Like, cause there's light browns, there's blues, there's dark browns, there's some tans in there. Yeah, I really like how that one turned out. So, haven't decided what that one's gonna be yet either, but once again, I have these weird 80s and 90s printer papers. So there's speckles on the page, which I really like, but there's also these like really obnoxious strips on the edge. So I just cover them up with scrap papers. And every once in a while, I'll just go through my scrap bin and get weird long offcuts and cover them up. So I still have some pages to do in this signature here. Did I do the other side? Yeah, I did that one. So there's that signature. I have my reference signature. I don't even know if this is going to stay in here, but I do like that it has a pen loop. So there's that. This is the only one that I know is definitely going to stay in here as this, I guess, function. So I've been in the process of building my credit the last year or so. And thankfully I've been doing a pretty good job, so that's pretty exciting. But also, I've been logging information in here, so that's been extremely helpful just for me to stay on top of all these different elements of things moving around. Because when you have credit cards, like, it can be so annoying to manage all those things. Anyway, so I have one place for all of that. This was the back of a Daphne's Diary, I guess, magazine, and it has this really beautiful, like, dried flower pattern on it. Yeah, and there's a little bit more I want to, yeah, love Daphne. I want to cover those up. This is also from Daphne's Diary. You can see I just found my Daphne's Diary collection and then decided to tear everything out of it and put it in this this booklet here. And this is made out of the same paper. Oh, you can see there's a little offcut from that other sheet. It's made of, yeah, the same paper, so I just covered it up with a whole bunch of scraps on the sides that had the annoying strips. But this one I did finish up. And then this clamp on the back, which is something that I really like to do with my traveler's notebooks. Have a clamp and then just have like scratch paper in the back. That way you can always make notes and just like toss them, or make weird grocery lists that you don't need to keep for anything and just toss them. So here's some teaching misprints that I had, and I just cut them in half and keep them. So those are the signatures that are currently in there. The way I have this laced is, ooh, can you see that? I poked 3 holes in the top and 3 holes in the bottom, and then I laced it. Here, actually, why don't I just show you how I laced it? So the way I prefer to do my lacings is maybe a little bit unconventional, but there's essentially 4 laces going down from the actual outside of the book, but most of my signatures, except for this last one here, are on bungees around those bungees. That allows for me to have a little bit more wiggle room. So when I'm trying to close my book, things can move around a little bit better. And also when I'm writing, instead of having this want to go like that, because it's tight on the bungee, because I have the bungee on that first bungee, so you can see like these two are connected around that first bungee. And that allows for them to stay straight right here. So it's not all trying to fall to the side. I personally find that that makes it easier to write in different signatures that are closer to the front and closer to the back. Because I have observed myself in the past in my other traveler's notebook, pretty much just putting the signatures I don't use as often on the outsides because it's more comfortable to write on the inside signatures, which I mean is still the case, but this is something I've seen that helps me kind of prevent that a little bit. Anywho, so those are the signatures that are in here now. Not all of them have been assigned, and I haven't figured them all out, but I do know what a couple of them are going to be. I just haven't like called them their thing yet. Let's see here. What else is there? Okay, so I got distracted by the innards of the book. Let's talk a little bit more about the cover because I've got some more stories for you. So here you can see the back of where that clamp was right here. I had to scrub all of the blue because there's a copper backing here, so I had to scrub a lot of blue off of that. Ooh, got a little paper scrap there. And also look at this beautiful mottled texture. This was from all of the glue from gluing the lining leather. Like I was saying with this piece, there's this dark brown thin leather layer that I peeled off. And actually, I want to show you that piece of leather because it's so cool. Check that out. Isn't that gnarly? Like, whoa, it's so cool. Okay, so here you can see there's that same clamp. Ooh, let's make it... Okay, so the way it would have been is it would have been like that. Obviously, the papers wouldn't have been there, but this would have all lined up there. But there were certain parts where I guess either this leather was too thin or my other leather was too thin, so they had patched it to make it the correct thickness. And this part here, can you see that? This part here, it actually took some of the grain from this piece of leather because it was so well adhered, so I had to go in with like a little scalpel and cut them apart. This part I cleaned up with a toothbrush again, But, oh my gosh, I just love this leather. Check out that texture. How fun is that? What a great example of making a thing work. Because, like, these parts weren't the exact right thickness. They're like, that's okay, we'll beef it up with extra little patching. Anyway, thought that was awesome. Let's see. So I just had to essentially be very careful when I was peeling the leather off. Thankfully, they were both thick enough pieces where it didn't break off or anything. I did have to cut with a little leather, or with a little razor knife around this little hole. So that's that hole there. Okay. I think that's that piece of leather. You got the story on the patching, which I think is a really interesting part. And if you guys have ideas for anything I should use these pieces of leather for, like, please tell me, because that is just so cool. I want to use it for something, but it's pretty thin. Like, maybe I could do some type of, like, small, like, art roll and put, like, paintbrushes in it or something and then roll it all up. I don't know. Anyway, I'm still in the brainstorming phase. And you guys helped me out with my decision making so much last time. I really do appreciate your feedback with how I ended up redoing this whole thing all together. So, oh yeah, and if you want, yeah, here's the section where I had to kind of cut off a lot of the, or a little bit of the grain anyway, but with a razor knife. Let's see, what other scraps do I have? Okay, so here were the triangle gussets. When I had cut that map bag down, it was like, it didn't open all the way because these triangle gussets were on the side. But there's two layers here, one of which is that same thin leather, but then there's also this piece, which is like a darker brown stained, full grain, beautiful leather. This would make really good pen loops, but I've got two of these guys. Also, I feel like maybe making a pen case somehow, maybe like trimming it down a little bit, like right there, and then turning it into like a little pen slippy spot. I don't know, just ideas. And then here is an offcut from the inside because the map bag had little, like, I don't know, kind of like card areas. It had separate pouches inside the bag itself. So here is something else I was able to make with one of the offcuts. I was able to trim down, let me get this out of there. Trim down the inside of the pockets on the inside. And I just made it into like kind of a folio. So I cut this to be the same width where it's, or same height where it's 8 3/4 inches. So I could use this to essentially be a tiny traveler's notebook if I wanted to, because it's not quite as thick. It's pretty thin right here, which is okay. But I just love the look of this. I feel like, I don't know, it has some serious like Lewis and Clark vibes or something. But anyway, so I could use this as a tiny traveler's notebook. I could also just barely, or trim it down a little bit more and then turn it into some type of folio and maybe even sew some pockets on here, because I do have these layers, and these sections of leather, this can be delaminated. So I could in theory take these pieces of leather, make little pockets for this, and turn it into like a little scrapbook folio type thing where I would put like little papers and collage goodies. So I might end up doing that, but I'm still brainstorming on that. I'm just proud that I even got this notebook done. So right now I'm just putting a random signature. Right now I'm just putting a random signature in there for now. Okay, and this was the offcut of the bottom of that part. Oh, speaking of Lewis and Clark, so originally when I was trying to design this thing and I wanted to put buttons on the front of the elastic, I was trying to figure out what buttons I wanted to use. And one of the ones I was thinking about was this buffalo head nickel that is golden. But then I realized that would make me feel guilty about being a white person in America. So I realized I don't want to look into the negativity of the past when I'm mapping my own personal future. So even though this has some kind of cowboy vibes going on, I don't want to think about it as a piece of history. I want to think about it as me mapping my own future. So didn't end up putting that on there, but I just thought I would share my reasoning going into choosing these things, because, you know, these subconscious ways we can program our mind are really powerful. Like, every time I look at this, I think, hee 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 hee, ooh, that was such a fun concert. Wow, I like things on my own. So it's like, it's a very specifically just me thing. It's a thing that I like because I like it, and like, I could go into detail about it, but it's like, this wasn't just any Panic at the Disco concert, it was the Pretty Odd tour, which is like a very Beatlesque kind of semi-psychedelic, steampunky, I don't know, genre for them. So it wasn't just any Panic at the Disco, it was like the flavor of Panic at the Disco that I liked, and anyway, so seeing that reminds me of who I am, and the fact that I have very strong and distinct preferences, and that is okay, and it's beautiful, and it's good to love things the way you love them for the reasons that you love them. Let's see. Oh yeah, I put a leaf on the back here because I wanted to denote growth, the fact that I'll be growing into my future. So I thought a leaf really represented that growth element. So yeah, after a couple of years, I've finally been able to turn this traveler's notebook into a traveler's notebook instead of just a weird map cover. I hope you guys enjoyed finally seeing the final product of this. I know quite a few of you guys have asked me about it over the years, and I appreciate your patience, because I just wasn't ready to crack into it. It was too big of a project, man. Does that ever happen to you guys where you're like, oh, it's gonna be like, I don't know, I didn't want to mess it up. So I really wanted to like take my time and make sure I was doing everything right, like, and removing this toggle was like a big thing for me, because I'm like, oh, well, it's a part of the character of the map, like, satchel thing, and I just knew it wasn't going to be functional for me, so I had to remove it. But I also made sure to keep all of my beautiful scraps so that I can use them accordingly in other projects going forward. So thank you for your patience waiting for me to finish this one up. I hope this inspires you guys to go find some weird bags at the thrift store and modify them into the traveler's notebook of your dreams. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a magical day. Bye.